Your dog is, at its biological core, a wolf with a collar. It is a descendant of apex predators designed to hunt, chase, and kill. But when you bring a human baby home, that same predator often does something strange. It softens its body, lowers its ears, and behaves with a gentleness that seems to defy its entire evolutionary history. We like to think of our pets as moral or kind, choosing to protect the most vulnerable member of our pack. We tell ourselves stories about nanny dogs and the mysterious bond between species. But the truth is that they aren't making a choice. They are being hacked. Nature didn't give babies a shield. It gave them a signal. It is an ancient, preloaded code that is hardwired into almost every mammal on the planet. This code is so powerful that it can stop a lion in its tracks, turn a massive gorilla into a nurse, and force a human brain to light up like a Christmas tree in less than a seventh of a second. This isn't a story about animal kindness. It is a story about a biological survival program that reads appearance, sound, and smell all at the same time to fire a single, irresistible command. This one gets treated differently. Once you understand how this code of the vulnerable works, you'll never look at your pet, or a baby, the same way again. To see this code in action across the species barrier, we have to look at one of the most famous moments in the history of zoos. In August of 1996, at the Brookfield Zoo in Illinois, a 3-year-old boy climbed over a railing and fell 20 feet into the gorilla enclosure. He hit the concrete floor and was knocked unconscious. As the crowd screamed in terror, a 160-pound female western lowland gorilla named Binti Jua approached the motionless child. For a moment, the world held its breath, expecting a violent tragedy. But Binti Jua didn't attack. She didn't treat the boy as a threat or as prey. Instead, she picked him up, cradled him in her arms, and protected him from the other gorillas. She then carried him nearly 50 feet to the enclosure door, where she waited for the zookeepers to take him to safety. At the time, the world called it a miracle. Headlines described Binti Jua as a hero, but to a biologist, she wasn't being a hero, she was experiencing a sensory hijack. The 3-year-old boy, even though he was a different species, was outputting a set of signals that Binti Jua's brain was physically unable to ignore. She had a toddler of her own at the time, and her brain was already saturated with the hormones of motherhood. When she saw the boy, her amygdala didn't see a human, it saw an infant. It saw the proportions, heard the silence of a vulnerable youngling, and immediately switched from territorial defense to caretaking. We call it mercy. Biology calls it an amygdala hijack. This universal map of cute has a scientific name, Kindchenschema, or baby schema. First proposed by the ethologist Konrad Lorenz in 1943, it is a specific set of physical features that triggers a nurturing response in adults. Large heads relative to the body, a high, bulging forehead, large eyes positioned low on the face, and chubby cheeks. These aren't just cute features. They are a mathematical formula for survival. If you were to map a baby's face, you would see that it is effectively a biological weapon designed to trigger the reward centers of an adult brain. Nature didn't give babies a shield. It gave them a signal. And that signal works because it doesn't wait for you to think. In 2008, researchers used magnetoencephalography to scan the brains of adults looking at faces. They discovered that the medial orbitofrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reward and emotion, lights up in exactly 140 milliseconds after seeing an infant's face. To put that in perspective, it takes you about 300 milliseconds to blink your eyes. Your brain has already decided to protect a baby before you even consciously realize you are looking at one. It is a snap of recognition that happens faster than your rational mind can interfere. It is a biological mandate that says, this life matters. But the code isn't just visual, it is acoustic. If you have ever been woken up in the middle of the night by a baby's cry, you know that it is a sound impossible to ignore. It isn't just loud, it is physically grating. And as it turns out, that frequency isn't just human. In 2014, researchers at the University of Winnipeg conducted a study on wild mule deer. They played recordings of infant distress calls from various species, including marmots, domestic cats, and human babies, to wild mother deer. The results were staggering. The mother deer didn't just look up, they rushed toward the speaker. They were willing to leave their own fawns to investigate the scream of a human infant. This happens because the fundamental structure of an infant's distress call, the pitch, the urgency, and the frequency, is nearly identical across almost all mammals. A human baby's cry sounds like a fawn's cry to a deer's ears. It is a cross-species SOS. The code of the vulnerable is a shared language. It is a bridge that connects a deer in the woods to a toddler in a nursery. The signal is so loud that it drowns out the boundaries of species. And then there is the smell. Juvenile mammals, including human infants, produce specific chemical signals that act as pheromonal brakes on adult aggression. In many species, the scent of a baby actually suppresses testosterone in males. It is a chemical signal that tells the killer of the pack to stand down. When your dog sniffs your baby and then lets out a long, relaxed sigh, it isn't just being sweet, it is being chemically sedated. The juvenile scent has physically entered the dog's nasal passages and sent a message to its brain to lower the stakes. The wolf with a collar isn't being nice, its internal chemistry is being manipulated. However, the code isn't perfect. If it were, the wild would be a much gentler place. To maintain scientific honesty, we have to look at the dark side of this system: infanticide. In the world of lions and bears, a new male taking over a territory will often systematically kill the existing offspring. In these moments, the baby signal is overridden by a different, colder biological calculation. The male lion needs the female to enter estrus so he can pass on his own genes. The hunger for genetic legacy beats the signal of the infant. The code is ancient, but it isn't an absolute law. It is a tension between two different survival programs: the urge to protect life and the urge to create your own. This tension reveals that mercy toward babies isn't a moral choice, it is a calculation. In most cases, the survival of the species depends on protecting the young, so the baby schema is set to a high volume. But when the stakes of competition are high enough, the volume can be turned down. The fact that it fails sometimes only proves how much energy nature has to put into making it work the rest of the time. Nature didn't give babies a shield, it gave them a signal. But even a signal can be drowned out by the noise of a brutal world. So, where do humans fit into this? We are the only species that has taken this ancient code and turned it into a weapon. We have hacked our own empathy. Think about a pug. A pug is a dog that has been selectively bred to maximize every single feature of the baby schema. It has the bulging forehead, the massive low-set eyes, and the flat face of a human infant. We find pugs cute, even though they often struggle to breathe, because our brains are literally unable to stop the nurturing response when we look at them. We have created artificial infants in our pets. We've done the same with cartoons. If you look at the evolution of Mickey Mouse from 1928 to today, you'll notice his eyes have gotten larger, His head has gotten rounder, and his limbs have gotten chubbier. He has moved closer and closer to the mathematical map of cute. We do this with teddy bears, with dolls, and with cute internet videos. We have weaponized the 140 millisecond snap. We are addicted to the hit of the medial orbitofrontal cortex. We are a species that has learned how to trigger its own protective instincts for entertainment. This leads to a phenomenon called cute aggression, that strange, overwhelming urge to squeeze or even bite something that is incredibly cute. Researchers believe this is our brain's way of balancing the scales. The cute signal is so powerful, so high volume, that our brain has to fire off a burst of aggression just to keep us from being completely incapacitated by the nurturing response. It is a regulatory system to prevent us from becoming so hijacked by the baby that we forget to eat or protect ourselves. The signal is so loud that we have to scream back just to stay sane. This reveals something profound about our place in the world. We like to think that our empathy, our ability to care for the weak, is what makes us human. We treat it as a high spiritual virtue that separates us from the monsters in the woods. But the science of the baby schema tells a different story. It tells us that our most human quality is actually an ancient biological inheritance. We share our deepest sense of mercy with the gorilla, the deer, and the dog. We are part of a massive living network of creatures that all respond to the same 140 millisecond snap. Nature didn't give babies a shield. It gave them a signal. And that signal is the reason any of us are here today. It is the reason the wolf on your sofa doesn't bite, and the reason Binti Jua carried a human boy to safety. It is a biological glue that holds the mammalian world together. It reminds us that empathy isn't a human invention. It is a biological legacy that we share with everything that has ever nursed its young. When you look at your dog tonight and you see that specific, gentle way it looks at a child, don't just see kindness. See the code. Realize that you are looking at a predator whose brain has been successfully hacked by a set of mathematical facial ratios and a juvenile scent. Realize that the gentleness you see is a 140 millisecond miracle of evolutionary engineering. The wolf with a collar hasn't changed its nature. It has simply met a signal it cannot ignore. The ancient code is always running. It's running in the nursery, in the dog park, and in the deepest parts of the forest. It is a silent language of the vulnerable, a cross-species SOS that ensures that even in a world defined by the survival of the fittest, there is always a place for the smallest among us. We aren't as separate from the wild as we think. We are all just following the same preloaded program, reacting to the same map of cute, and rushing toward the same scream in the night. Empathy isn't a human choice. It's a biological mandate. And as you watch your baby sleep or your dog lower its head, realize that you are witnessing the most successful hack in the history of life. The signal is clear, the response is fast, and the code is absolute. We don't protect them because we are good. We protect them because we have no other choice. The code has already won. And in a world this brutal, maybe that biological hijack is the only thing that keeps the lights on.